Assalamualaikum. Today we are from Group 2. We'll present about topic 2. I'm Muhammad Syahidul bin Rizlan.
And I am Muhammad Faris bin Wazaduddin. And our question is, a professor in international business recently spoke to a student in an organizational behavior class about cultural differences between American and Japanese employees. Relying on a famous study in the 1960s, the scholar explained that Japanese employees have a high degree of collectivism and consequently must logically also have a low level of individualism. The visitor then note that Americans have exactly the opposite values. They have high individualism and low collectivism. The visitor concluded by saying that identifying someone's nationality, such as American, you can easily determine the person's level of collectivism and individualism. Our first question is, identify and explain 4 cultural value dimensions by Gerd Hofstede. Second question is, state 3 errors that could arise with the visiting professor's statement. And C, explain the 3 errors in relation with the visiting professor's statement. First cultural value dimension is long-term versus short-term. Long-term oriented societies attach more importance to the future. They foster pragmatic values oriented towards rewards, including persistence, saving, and capacity for adaptation. In short-term oriented societies, values promoted are related to the past and the present, including steadiness, respect for tradition, preservation of one's faith, reciprocation, and fulfilling social obligations. The second cultural value dimension is power distance index. Power distance index is the power distance that the extent to which the less powerful members of organizations and institutions like the family accept and expect the power is distributed unequally. Cultures that endorse low power distance expect and accept power relations that are more consultative or democratic. The third cultural value dimension is individualism versus collectivism. In individualistic societies, the stress is put on personal achievement and individual rights. People are expected to stand up for themselves and their immediate family and to choose their own affiliations. In contrast, in collectivist societies, individuals act predominantly as members of a lifelong and cohesive group or organization. People have large extended families, which are used as a protection in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. The last cultural value dimension is Uncertainty Avoidance Index, UAI. UAI is a society's tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity. It reflects the extent to which members of a society attempt to cope with anxiety by minimizing uncertainty. People in cultures with high uncertainty avoidance tend to be more emotional. They try to minimize the occurrence of unknown and unusual circumstances and to proceed with careful change, step-by-step planning and by implementing rules, law and regulations. In contrast, low uncertainty avoidance culture accept and feel comfortable in unstructured situations or changeable environment and try to have a few rules as possible. People in these cultures tend to be more pragmatic. They are more tolerant of change.
3, 1, 2, go.
Okay, next I will proceed to the second question, which is state the 3 errors that could arise with the visitor's professor statement. Okay, the first error is the information is not valid. The research have been made in 1960s, which is out of the date in this era. Okay, the second statement is the second statement of error is the statement of the professor itself, which is biased, and the last error is the stereotype.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, go.
The explanation about this the first error is which is information is invalid or out of date. Okay, the explanation is the information from research that the visiting professor used is out of date. The study was made in 1916, which is long ago from this era. And lastly, in this era, the situation may have changed a lot. Okay, the second explanation about the error is the biased statement made by the visitor professor. Okay, the statement is biased because he cannot simply state someone's behavior based on their nationality. Not all Japanese has high degree of collectivism, and all Americans have high degree of individualism. Okay, the last error is stereotyping. Stereotyping, he discriminate people by nationality. Stereotyping will lead people to judge other by their social status. Okay, that's all for our presentation this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lambat thank you. Pantai lah dah.
Kesian Rasam.
Okay.